guys. Welcome back to another episode of the She Strong podcast. And look, I'm excited because we are just rolling this thing out. Every episode, I feel like the topics, the conversation, the guests just gets better and better. And we're not stopping today. We have an amazing guest here today that's going to definitely, I'm excited because I feel this is a topic that isn't discussed enough.
I agree.
Yes. And I know that I'm going to learn something here today, and I know that you all are going to learn something here today. So, thank you so much, Dana, for coming on here
Thank you for
today.
having me. Thank you for having
No
me.
problem. How are you doing today?
I'm good. Other than being hot, I'm okay.
It is very, very hot. We did a vending event yesterday, and we were outside. The weather, when I got home, I looked, it was 88 degrees.
Oh no, it was 92 when we were there.
Mm.
Then, and I can only imagine what the heat index was. It was ridiculous.
It was absolutely ridiculous. But
No cloud cover, nothing, just straight sun.
we did what we had to do, though.
Right,
We came out
exactly.
there. We did what we had to do. So I'm so happy that you were able to make it here today.
Yeah, I'm happy to be here.
Thank you. Let's get right into it. Tell me
Okay.
a little bit about yourself. Now I know that you have an amazing series of books called the
Black Boy Joy.
Black Boy Joy.
Mhm.
Black Boy Joy. Tell me how you got into publishing and all that.
So I actually knew since like fourth grade that I wanted to be a writer. My fourth grade teacher, she used to like allow me to like write stories and like to give them to her.
Mm-hmm.
And so she never clipped my wings, and I was appreciative of that. So fast forward to high school, I'll take that back. Fast forward to junior high, I won several awards regarding writing and things of that nature. Like
Mhm.
as pictures of me in the newspaper, I'm like this little short, chunky little girl. And
Oh.
so it was interestingly enough that it carried on in high school, and I gravitated towards poems, and so people would be like, "Oh, I want you to write this poem for me for my boyfriend," and I'm like, "Oh, okay,"
Right.
And so, and then
Frauds. They can't even
right.
put the message together themselves.
Exactly. And I was like, "This it'll be $10."
Right. Get your money.
Right. So then, fast forward to college. I used to do like help people as far as the football team was concerned. Like I would help them study and things of that nature. And it just was innate to me. I had a very strong upbringing when it came to writing and reading. I love to read, and ultimately my goal was to be a writer. And I can remember having a pebble in my shoe. I tell people it's the proverbial pebble in the shoe.
Mm-hmm.
I want to be a writer, but I don't know what to write about. And I just consistently was trying to find something, trying to find my niche. And even prior to that, like I've tried my hand at so many things to become an entrepreneur,
Mm-hmm.
and I would fail. And I'm like, okay, well, I'm losing my gumption and my gas for it. And so fast forward to my son, my younger son. One day he was jumping into bed while we were getting ready for work and school. And I said, baby, don't jump into bed. He was like, well, mommy, I'm trying to fly. And I said, well, baby, humans can't fly. And so at the time, my son was extremely into like space, drag, thrust, anything dealing with airplanes, cars, all that stuff. So he was like, well, mommy, flies fly, butterflies fly. And I'm like, yeah, okay, yeah, they do. So we walking around the house getting ready, and he said, well, mommy, you said humans can't fly. And I said, I did. Yeah, I did. And he said, well, we fly helicopters, we fly airplanes, hot air balloons, kites. We fly kites. And I said, yeah, we do. And so we're leaving the house, and he said, well, mommy, humans can't fly. And I said, you're right. And so I was just like, oh gosh, she checked me.
Right. Don't you hate when they do that?
And I was like, okay.
Right.
So with that, I was just driving to work, and I said, this could be a really good story.
Mm-hmm.
And so I wrote it like immediately. I went home after work and I wrote it down, like the entire conversation, because I didn't want to forget anything that we had talked about.
Right.
And so it was just like, I said, okay, I need to find an illustrator. And I was like gung-ho about it, excited about it, you know what I mean? So reaching out to illustrators around, local areas, and just doing my due diligence as far as like research. It was extremely expensive. And being a teacher, we only have so much salary that goes around. So it was I would say a dream deferred. And so fast forward to 2020, everything shut down. And so we were just like, okay, I really want to get this book out. And what do I need to do it? And so actually, I touched base with one of my really good friends who is an author as well. And he had published like several books. And I said, hey, bro, what's going on? Like, I need help. What do I need to do in order to get this done? And he said, okay, these are the steps that you need to take. If you take these steps, you'll be able to publish your book on your own. And so July 2020 came, had everything done. The book was done. I surprised my son in July of 2020 because I actually was going to debut it on his birthday in August. But my sister, who was like my biggest cheerleader, she was just like, is the book finished? And I said, yeah. She said, well, what are you waiting on?
She like, put it out now.
Yeah, she was like, do it now, do it now. And I was like, I don't know. She was like, are you afraid? And I'm like, yeah. She was like, do it scared. What's
I
gonna
like that.
happen?
Yeah.
So we went on Facebook Live, and I said, okay, y'all, I'm about to surprise P3. Nobody knew that I was gonna do it except for my sister and of course my immediate family. And so I showed him the book. He was like, oh my God. He was like, Mommy, you wrote a book. And I said, well, look who else's name is on there. And he said, and so he thought it was his dad. He like, Dad wrote a book? And I said, no, read it again. He was like, I wrote a book. And so it was amazing. So it was like, that got shared so many times. We went viral.
Oh, so you recorded it?
Yeah.
Nice.
So we went viral in 3 months, word of mouth and social media. We did not have a website.
Mm-hmm.
We didn't have anything. We sold over 300 books. So yeah.
Yes. So what made you think, well, obviously your son is kind of what prompted that. And that's a beautiful story that you've had that passion for writing for so long. And then just authentically, you and your son kind of having that conversation.
Oh yeah.
Produced such a big, massive success of a series of books. So that's amazing. What made you think, and how did your son feel? I know you have other books now, right?
Yes. So pretty much all of my children at this point have had some type of play in each book. And so, like my youngest son, we have a book. He has like several books. My oldest children, they have books, as well. So it was just like a whole family affair, making sure that I'm able to leave a legacy for them.
Nice. I love that. Because family business, we are also working on showing our kids the entrepreneur lifestyle.
Exactly. Absolutely.
It's so important because I don't know if they're going to teach the kids that in school, really.
Right. Exactly.
And so it's up to us to kind of do that. Okay. So tell me about the other books that have been produced from that first original book.
So we have a sequel to Humans Can't Fly, which is Because Big Boys Aren't Afraid of Outer Space. And that is a bedtime story where he's getting ready for bed, but instead of like going to bed, he's actually preparing to become an astronaut to go to space. But in actuality, he's going to sleep and he's dreaming about going to space.
Oh, that's cute.
That's like now, like Humans Can't Fly was our bestseller for a very long time, but now like everybody's like, okay, I really like this book, And so after that, because we have so many versions of it, we have a Spanish version of Humans Can't Fly. And then we have Because Big Boys Aren't Afraid of Outer Space. And then we have Hey New Kid, which is my youngest son. And we call him New Kid because he was the youngest, of course. And so he's the new kid in the family.
The
yeah. So he was having trouble. When I tell you that youngest one gave me grade, that's why I'm blind. And so he had trouble going to bed and getting up in the morning and things like that. So I was like, okay, we need to figure this out. So what can we do in order to help you get ready for school in the morning? So we would sit there and write down steps. Okay, what else we need to do? What are the things we need to do in order to get ready for school so you can have a great day? So he said, well, I need to get up and I need to wash my face. I need to brush my teeth. And so we literally put in a step-by-step manual. And so our first book for him was Hey New Kid. Aww. And so we have that in Spanish as well.
Okay.
And then we're moving forward to A Very Different Butterfly. And a lot of people don't know, but A Very Different Butterfly was my very first book that I wrote in 2009. And that was like homage to myself because I used to be a child I'm a middle child. So if anybody knows middle child syndrome, that's what I had for a very long time. And so I wanted to be liked, because I felt like I had two older sisters who were they were beautiful. They did everything, people liked them. And then I had two younger sisters as well. So it was just me and I'm different. I don't look like anybody, look totally different and awkward, So I wrote that as a way to like have self-confidence in myself and believe in myself and forge your own path and find your own way. And so I would say that's a tribute to girl power.
Okay.
And so we have a bit of Black girl magic in there as well. Nice. So then we move on to We have our affirmation book, which is Sunshine Seeds. Can't say that 3 times fast. But but it's an affirmation book that basically allows kids to go in and write and read the affirmation for the day and write their affirmations down. And ultimately, after they're done with those affirmations, they can write their own affirmation book in the back.
Oh, cute.
And so then we have New Kid and the Day Before Christmas, which basically entails everything that we did as a family on New Year. I'm not sorry, not New Year's, Christmas Eve. So we watch our favorite movies. We exchange gifts. We normally like open our gifts, and it's of course pajamas and their favorite candies and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
And like just do the family thing. And after that, we got Hey New Kid. Oh my goodness, there's so many. We have Mrs. Majors is missing. Yeah, Mrs. Majors is missing. So I have to admit, Mrs. Majors is missing is my favorite book right now.
Really? Tell us why. Tell us why.
Okay, so that's the one where my oldest 2 kids, they actually have a part in that. Okay. And so my husband and I, we went to Jamaica probably like in 2018. And at the time I was a teacher. And my kids in the classroom went through 4 substitutes. They cut up and clowned so bad when I was in Jamaica that they actually FaceTimed me in Jamaica, was like, Mrs. Majors, this ain't it. You need to talk to them. And I'm like, are you serious right now? So basically it's like based on a true story. Mm-hmm. And so how Jay just was like, okay, well, we need Miss Majors. She ain't told nobody nothing. Where she at? And so ultimately when I got back, they was like, Miss Majors, where have you been? I'm like, y'all know where I've been. Well, we don't like you leaving. So
they wanted you to miss that Jamaica trip?
Yeah. And I was like, absolutely not.
Absolutely not.
So, and then finally, I'm actually working on my first novel. And that is There's Something Living in the Laundry Room, which is geared towards, it's like Black thrillers for, teenagers. So I'm excited about that. And that's something that I've been putting on the back burner, but I'm back in it. And it's a story about my kids, mm-hmm. my oldest 3 children who we used to all live in this little small home before we built our home. And it's basically based off, again, like a true story, where we built our home from scratch. And then my youngest daughter, she has type 1 diabetes. So it really gears around that and how susceptible and vulnerable she can be. But it's more of a spiritual thriller type thing.
Oh, I love that. Mm-hmm. Well, first, I'd like to say thank you for making this amazing series of books, because my kids love to read. I love to have that time with them. However, the representation is not always there, mm-hmm. in some of the books. And so all the things and all the topics that you're hitting on is so much needed for us and to give that to our kids. Absolutely. Now, so I thank you. I love anything that is uplifting our youth and giving them more of that representation, basically.
Mm-hmm. Thank you.
So thank you. And then me and my daughter, we purchased the Christmas book.
Yeah, New Kid and the Day Before Christmas.
She loves Christmas. It's June, and she gonna start getting ready for Christmas now.
I don't blame her. I don't blame her.
So we're definitely gonna be reading that, and probably today, probably now, because like I said, she's gonna get ready for it. So switching topics just a little bit.
Okay.
I know you have an event coming up.
Yes.
And so tell us a little bit about that event and what you're going to be covering there.
So the event the conference really is about what is called, the title is Beyond the Statistics. And so in 2011, my husband and I were 6 months married, and I found out I was pregnant. And so, of course, this is a joyous occasion, right? Mm-hmm. And so, unfortunately, there was a situation where something didn't look right on the ultrasound. So when they sent me to maternal fetal medicine, and I forget her name, and normally I can remember it, but I can't remember it right now. But it's Tony Dungy's sister. Okay. She's actually a doctor. Wow. She works at Raleigh now, but she used to work at Community North. And so they sent me to her, and so they did an in-depth ultrasound. And my son at the time, he ended up having fluid on the brain. And so, they said, well, it's just small. It's a small little sac right now, but we're going to monitor it and grow, see if it grows or anything like that. So they immediately put me on high-risk pregnancy. And so, week after week we would go. And unfortunately, the fluid became bigger and bigger. And so the sac in his brain became bigger. They called it ascites.
Mm-hmm.
And so what happens is with that is if there's fluid on the brain, it can ultimately go down to the heart and stop, of course,
Mm-hmm.
kill the child. And unfortunately, that's what happened.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
So with that, of course, it was like a whole lot of grief, a whole lot of guilt, where it's just like it's my fault. It's my fault. What could I have done to make this, have this happen differently? Um, but also too, I felt like I really didn't have an opportunity to grieve
Mm-hmm.
because my husband was grieving because that was his first son.
Yeah.
And so they would give you pamphlets and information like, okay, these are the options that you have. Good luck with your life. So, it's
Right.
just like, okay, what do we do about this? So, I've learned for a very long time, the grief would manifest in different ways where I would be depressed. I was diagnosed with clinical depression in 2018. And just basically finding out things like I almost lost my job because of the emotional outbursts I would have. My my marriage went through a really rocky time during that phase as well. So that's something that I feel like we don't have a lot of support, especially when it comes to Black women, because they expect us to be so resilient.
Right.
And so, and for a very long time, I've attempted to talk about it, but I could not bring myself to do it because I just felt like it was just this guilt, this cloud of guilt that was over me. And I just couldn't bring myself to do it. Like I would talk about it and I would just burst into tears. And
Mm-hmm.
even now, it's like he would be 13 this year. And so it's just, you have just these connections to where people say, well, it's not your fault. But of course, you don't think that,
Right.
So, I realized that I needed help. So I went to therapy. And so having to work through that, navigate that. And so making sure that I understood both in my psyche and my mind and my heart that, things happen.
Mm-hmm.
And unfortunately, the body works mysteriously. We don't know why things happen, but it was not my fault. And so, being that I have friends who actually went through that, and we don't talk about it because they expect it to be quiet and hush hush, and how doctors will sometimes push us to the wayside, and that is very very important in order and especially in our community, that needs to be addressed.
Mm-hmm.
Like it should not be a taboo conversation. This is something that happens. Um, I recognize that I'm 1 in 4. 1 in 4 women every 60 seconds loses a child. And so that's something that I feel like is very diligent and very important in our community that we need to talk about.
Absolutely, absolutely. Because just like what you said, I think that we're looked at as so strong, and then we kind of represent ourselves as, strong women, which is okay. But it's also okay to have that, vulnerability, and
Right.
it's actually very needed.
Definitely.
Yeah,
Definitely.
especially amongst ourselves. Um, so went to counseling, and moved past that. Did you ever have that moment where you opened up with friends as well?
There were times where I've attempted to, but I think it's more along the lines of not wanting to have them to bear that burden. You know what I
Mm-hmm.
mean? Of course, my friends know, like, hey, she lost a child, but I don't think they knew the gravity of how it affected me. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? So again, having to hold that in internally, it externalized in other ways. You know what I mean? So I can remember crying to my husband, telling him I don't want to be this person anymore. I don't want to be this person where people think that I'm just lashing out for no reason. So I was like, I got to get help.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. Okay. Um, and so the conference, Beyond the Statistic, so you'll be there speaking about women maternal health in general.
so I will be focusing on infant loss and miscarriage. So we have several people. One of my friends that I've known since college, she was a teen mother due to domestic violence. And so she can speak on, of course, that in the Black community, how we really don't focus enough on how important it is to, like, build our build our children up as far as self-confidence is concerned. If you see something, say something.
Mm-hmm.
So but ultimately her children are now in college and they have like millions of dollars in scholarships, and so they're doing so well, they're flourishing. And so and then it's just being able to see that she had a successful teen pregnancy and was able to be a successful teen mother as well. And then we have another person that's on the panel. She will be speaking about infertility in the Black community. A lot of us, we deal with PCOS, and a lot of people don't talk
Mm-hmm.
about that.
Yeah.
We deal with fibroids. Things just people really genuinely, like, we have these conversations, but it's just like, oh girl, well, my fibroids, and they told me I had to take them out, and that was it.
Right.
But we never go into detail, and we never go into depth, because again, we feel like it's too personal. And of course, Black people in the Black community say, this is your dirty laundry. You airing out your dirty laundry. Don't tell your business.
Yeah.
But I feel like this part in particular, when it comes to maternal health, when it comes to our health just in general, we do need to speak out, because there was a situation last year where there was a woman, and I think her husband was on television, and he lost not only his wife, he lost his child.
Mm-hmm. I remember that.
And so it's just, these are things that we don't consider, like the fatalities of Black women,
Mm-hmm.
the mortality of Black women and children. And so we definitely need to address that and emphasize how important that is. And so fast forward, or circling back, we have three doctors on the panel. Again, we have an OBGYN that specifically goes into care of, of course, the women's parts.
Mm-hmm.
And again, it goes into palliative care to, when you've lost a child, or when you lost a wife, or things like that. We have a general physician that tells you basically, like, okay, these are the things you need to look for when it comes to your hormones, and then we can guide you to the next steps on who you need to see. And then, of course, like I said, I'm excited about this part, the dentist that we have on the panel, because again, no one talks about how important it is to take care of your oral health. A lot of people don't know that oral health, like if you have issues with your teeth, it links to your heart. It causes heart disease.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas, hormones, they affect your teeth as well. Pregnancy affects your teeth. And just in general, like, it's very important to make sure that you have good oral health. So it encompasses a lot of things, but all of these things are very important in our community.
Yes, absolutely. I have two of my own. I was also pregnant in 2020. And
oh, you got COVID, baby.
Oh yeah, a COVID baby, and that's my youngest, and he is off the chain.
I'm already knowing.
It's like my daughter, she's so chill. I thought I was gonna get two of them, like two chill kids. I was so excited because I had the girl, and then I knew was gonna have a boy, and then I'm like, okay, he's gonna be a real chill baby. Like I was. No, he's been like laughing and playing. He has no chill.
None.
Even when he get in trouble, he'd be upset for like 2 seconds and then he over it. And I'm like,
something different about those quarantine babies. I don't know what it is, but
because it was just something in the air at the time too. You know what I'm saying?
COVID was
in the air, and they got it, but they didn't get it all the way. It's like something,
right?
It needs to be studied, honestly.
Yeah, it really does, and I feel like it's the lack of socialization too. Like they just like, okay, I just know that I'm gonna cause all the smoke.
Right. So, right. Yeah, you're gonna keep me inside. Well, here it is. Yep. This is what you're gonna get.
Here you go.
Yeah. So during that time, I developed gestational diabetes.
Okay.
But let's take it back. Before I developed or discovered I was developing gestational diabetes, I was severely depressed, and I didn't know what was going on with me. It's 2020. Not only are we dealing with COVID, but as you remember, that was the time where everything was going on with George Floyd.
Yep.
And a number of other similar situations. And me being pregnant with my first son, I'm nervous. I'm scared. I'm looking at Black men being killed for no reason.
It seemed as if it was for sport.
For the color of their skin. And that terrified me. And then we're in the house, a little socialization. So I found myself very depressed. I couldn't work out the way I wanted to work out because it wasn't making me happy. I had so much anxiety, and I remember talking to my doctors about it. And honestly, I didn't go into detail because they were not Black doctors, so I didn't feel comfortable saying like, I'm feeling these ways because of the things that's going on in our country, and because of that, I don't think I got the help that I needed.
Right.
So I struggled really bad during that pregnancy. And then I developed gestational diabetes, and I had to understand how to eat differently, how I was taking my blood sugar levels or
Mhm.
insulin levels
Mhm.
every 2 hours after every meal. And again, that if you've never done anything like that or never seen anyone do anything like that, that process isn't easy.
It's not. It's not at all.
Yeah.
My daughter, she developed type 1 diabetes when she was 5 years old, and of course, we're just like, okay, we have to learn right along with her. So
Hmm.
it was a whole process of trying to figure out what do we need to do in order to make sure that she's getting her bolus correct, things like that. So it was a learning curve for us as well. So I definitely understand. My sister actually had gestational diabetes as well. So I just having to see just that process is tumultuous. You know what I mean? Because I felt bad, and it was in me. So I
Yeah.
can only imagine how she felt. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? So it's just things where if you don't have the right conversations or if you don't have the right people in the room, you don't know.
Yeah.
You know?
And then some of us only can get what we can get.
Yep.
Meaning at the time, depending on your health insurance and stuff,
Mm-hmm.
you're not gonna get the best doctors, or maybe they are good doctors, but they don't care
Right.
because they're looking at your paperwork and you might got Medicaid or whatever going
Mm-hmm.
on. And I've had other friends tell me they feel like they've been treated differently because of their insurance.
Absolutely. That happened to me with my first son. I had a quality paying job, and then unfortunately, it was like we had to be rifted, and so with that, my insurance went out, and
Hmm.
I was like seeing these quality doctors, and next thing you know, I'm in line. Like it literally was like cattle. There was so many pregnant women in line to go and see a doctor, and they what they don't tell you is they have a time limit as to how long you could be in the room.
Ooh.
Yeah, with that doctor.
I can believe it because my doctor used to rush me through
Mhm.
there. Like I
Mhm.
would be like, "That's it." Like
Yeah.
I feel like, okay, did we talk about everything? And she'd be like, "Yep, you're good to go." And I'd be like, "Well,
Right.
okay."
Exactly. So I think it's like now they have like either a 10 or 15 minute max to where you can be in a room, unless it's like something specific that they need to run tests for. And so imagine being on Medicaid and they give you a interval of 5 to 10 minutes at the maximum. And so I ended up with my first son, I had preeclampsia to the point to where they told my mother, they told my sister, they said that if you guys do not leave the room so she can calm down, she's going to go into a seizure. And so I
Mm,
remember they like had all this intravenous work going on, and I was coherent, but I could see and hear everything that was going on in the room, but it was like I was in and out. And so I was just like, okay, this could have been avoided had I
yeah.
had the quality, doctors, you know what I
Hmm.
mean? So it was just a whole thing to where we are treated differently. Now, what I can say is I've had an amazing OBGYN as well that, delivered my second son. Her name is Dr. Carolyn. She has Carolyn something. I can't remember her last name now. She's changed it, and she moved to Fort Wayne, and I'm mad about it.
Right.
Because she's amazing. When I tell you, like she listens. I remember when I was diagnosed with clinical depression. I was like, I'm sad all the time. Don't know why I'm sad. I don't want to get out of bed. I'm crying. This has never been me. Who is this person? Because everybody knows Dana to be this. Well, she doesn't cry. You cry around her, like she's gonna look at you crazy. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But it was me. Like I became this emotional person to where I was consistently crying. I didn't want to get out of the bed. I didn't want to go to work, and I just didn't know what was wrong. And so that's when I received the steps, and they told me, okay, these are the things that you need to do because you're clinically depressed. And so she's just like, well, Dana, what is it that we need to do? How can we help you?
Hmm.
And so and I was just like, I don't know. She said, okay, well, we're gonna figure it out. And so when she did that, I was just like, there are quality doctors that genuinely care about people.
Yeah.
And so with that, I just feel like there are so many things that we don't know the ins and outs about that are ultimately trickling down to the patient.
Hmm.
But all of this needs to be revamped. And
Yeah.
like, and how can we get to it? So it's the what of the why. How
Hmm.
can we get to that?
Yes. Yes. And I hear all the different people you have. How many people you have on your panel?
We have we have three doctors, and then of course it's myself, and then my other two friends. So that's six, and then we have a moderator, which is seven. So yes.
Okay. And when children and when choosing the people on the panel, what was in your mind? Because I know there's so many different topics and things to discuss. What were you thinking as far as things that like this got to be talked about?
Mm-hmm.
Because I need to make sure by the time the women leave this conference that they know this, and this.
So the biggest thing is like we need to be informed.
Mm-hmm.
What can we do in order to be informed? And so ensuring that number one, these doctors were black. Two, that they knew the trials and tribulations that black women go through. Three, what information can you share in order to make sure that we stay informed. And so when it came to actually choosing the people on the panel, Tasha Miller, she's actually a mother of a disabled, and well, he has limb awareness. You know what I mean? He's missing some limbs and things of that nature. So she's able to actually relate to what we're going through. And she almost died. And a lot of people don't know that, like when having her son. And so it's just so many things that, these women that we can relate to that are on the panel that can actually tell their stories if they choose to tell their stories. And then, of course, say you're not alone. Because unfortunately, like I said, this happens way too often in our community and we don't talk about it.
Yeah, we don't. We really don't. I've always felt like, because as you know, I'm a personal trainer and a fitness enthusiast, and I know how PCOS and hormonal changes in pregnancy affects that routine and that balance of keeping your life healthy. Um, I really, really struggled after my son. After having gestational diabetes, I developed diastasis recti. Is that how you say it?
Mm-hmm.
I knew that very early in my pregnancy because the way my belly was shaped. And so, if you don't know, that's when your abs like separate due to the completely separate due to the way the baby's growing. And so, I was an athlete and I didn't have core strength at all. Like if I was taking a picture and someone was like, suck it in, I couldn't do it.
Yeah.
Because I had nothing there. It was embarrassing for me coming back as a trainer, not being able to do a crunch, not being able to hold a plank. And that goes on to other things that you can't do, like just
back
perform.
pain, things of that nature. So I definitely understand because I had that as well. And so my kids, I'm only 5'5". My children both were over 9 pounds. And so, it was like I was breeding giants. And so I totally get it. It's just like, where they say, well, you need to hold a plank. I can't,
I couldn't.
Well, you need to do this. And I'm like, I can't. And it's like, yes, you can. And I'm like, no, seriously, I cannot. So for me, I had to go to physical therapy. And so a lot of people don't tell you that either. Like, with my last son, I ended up with a cracked pelvis. And so I couldn't get up without assistance. And I kept telling the doctors, like, hey, this hurts. Like,
was that due to the labor?
No, this was just in general.
Like as you were growing? Wow.
And so I can remember being 6 months pregnant. I was laying on my left side and I was like, I can't move. Like, I can't move. I can't get up. It causes too much pain. And I can remember my husband picking me up. And I remember we're going to the doctor. And I was like, I can't get up without assistance. Something's wrong. And she kept saying, oh, it's just your ligaments, And I'm like, no, lady, I've been pregnant 3 times. I know exactly what's going on.
They love to blame pain on the ligaments.
And I'm like, no. So then, there was one time where I just got fed up, and she said it again. It's just your ligaments. And I said, well, okay, so if you don't, examine me, so can you please put that in my notes that you chose to refuse to examine me? And so she went back out and she came back in and she said, okay, yeah, let's go ahead and get you an x-ray. And I said, okay. So that's when we found out I had SPD. And so that basically means that your pelvis is cracked. And so with that, unfortunately, because it was so far into the pregnancy, there was really nothing that we could do. And so after that, after I had my son, I went to physical therapy. And so it still affects me to this day. But I feel like had we had the conversation earlier where somebody could have examined me and showed me exactly what was wrong, something could have been, addressed and we could have fixed it. But again, it's not listening. So
yeah. I think it's really important for us to be vocal like that. Like,
Definitely. You
if
have to
you don't
advocate
put,
for yourself.
yeah, if you don't put this, just know that this is something I'm gonna come back to, and I'm gonna
Mm-hmm.
hold you to that, because
Absolutely.
that's the only way. My mom's a nurse, so she's always told me, like, you have to ask questions, you have to, push, push, push. Otherwise, you may not get the care and the treatment that you need.
Absolutely.
No one officially diagnosed me with diastasis recti.
Mm-hmm.
I just could tell by my stomach. I could tell after I had my son. Again, I couldn't do much, and I asked her to check, but she was like, "Oh, well," like, she basically kind of said, like, if I do have it, there's nothing that they can do about it besides surgery. But I think it would have been really helpful if someone would have gave me, like, some type of information of how to fix it. There's certain workouts you can do, to bring it in to close that gap.
Mm-hmm.
Just information,
Yeah.
period, because
Absolutely.
I really felt, again, it changed the shape of your stomach too.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm working out, working out, working out. I'm losing weight, but my stomach's not,
Yeah, it's not budging.
it's not budging. You got this weird shape. Not only, like, I really honestly would have rather had a big stomach, round stomach, than the weird kind of shape, because
Mm-hmm.
depending on where your split happened, I think mine happened, above my belly button.
Okay.
So it just kind of protruded and then it dropped down. Like,
Mm-hmm.
the bottom part of my stomach was flattening, but where the split was looked so weird.
Mm-hmm.
They gave me so much self-esteem issues
Issues,
and
yeah.
confidence issues. But if someone would have told me, like, "Hey, Portia, do this, don't do this. This is why this is happening. It can go away in this amount of time, approximately," it would have gave me some hope,
Mm-hmm. Definitely. Absolutely. I agree.
So, for women that are currently pregnant or thinking about getting pregnant, what's some advice that you can give them, to make sure that they stay safe, or know the proper precautions and things that they should look out for during this time?
I would say do your research.
Hmm.
You don't have to stick with the OBGYN that they give you. Like if you don't like that person, you can always advocate for yourself and make sure that you find somebody that you are comfortable with and that can relate to your problems and issues and challenges. Again, to advocate, speak up. If
Hmm.
these are things that going on that that you don't feel comfortable, or if you're in pain or anything like that, don't have them to just brush you off to the wayside. Like, okay, this is what I'm feeling. What is it that we can do in order to make this better or alleviate some pain? You know what I mean? Um, Take your vitamins. That's very important.
Yeah.
Take your vitamins, and if it needs to come to that, get your blood work done to see specifically where your challenges are, as far as like if you're low on vitamin D, what are some things that you can do to get that upkeep and things of that nature. So I know a lot of people they don't like to take vitamins per se, but what can you do to implement those type of vitamins in your meal?
Hmm.
So just again, just stay informed, do your research, advocate. So
Hmm.
those are the three things I would say definitely you need to do.
Do you recommend midwives and, like, doulas and things like that?
Absolutely, definitely. If you
Yeah.
don't have to go to the hospital, don't do it.
Yeah.
I mean, of course, like
Would you do a home birth?
I would.
You would?
Yeah, but not anymore, of course. I'm not having any more kids.
You're
But
done.
I'm done. But absolutely, like I feel as if, doulas and midwives, they are definitely as informed, if not more informed.
Okay.
And so if they could walk you through that process, I would say go for it for sure. I've had so many of my friends who've become doulas and midwives, and I'm like so proud of them, excited for their journeys.
Hmm.
And they've shared their journeys of how they helped so many women actually give birth at home and all that stuff. And so it's amazing to me how medically things have changed, and
Hmm.
how you see people doing homeopathic things. It's just good. So,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. What kind of questions should we be asking our OBGYNs and our healthcare professionals surrounding our pregnancies?
I would say for sure ask what is necessary, what is important in order to make sure that you stay healthy. What vitamins do I need to take? What is the process? As far as staying healthy, do I need to work out? Like, how can I work out? What are the
Hmm.
things that I can do, depending on how severe or how good of a pregnancy you have? Because some people, unfortunately, have high risk pregnancies,
Hmm.
so they have to. Sometimes, unfortunately, they're bedridden. So, what are some things that they can do in order to make sure that their babies are safe, and as well as them? You know what I mean? So it's definitely questions that, as far as like preeclampsia, they ask like, okay, because I know when I had preeclampsia, they said, oh, we'll just lay on your left side, and it only brings your blood pressure down for a moment. But what are things in order to make sure that it doesn't get worse than what it is? Because
Mhm.
if it gets worse, then unfortunately you have to have a C-section and all of that thing. We don't even talk about the C-section, what that complications and
Yeah.
what complications can arise. So, I would say ask questions specific to your pregnancy
Mhm.
and make sure that you do your research.
Okay. If you're a new mom, though, if you're a new mom and you don't know anything about pregnancy, this is your first journey, you're scared, and you're on the hunt. I know midway through mine as well, my first child, I switched OBGYNs.
Mm-hmm.
My doctor, my hospital, because they were it was some religious thing. I forget what it was, but it was a religion, their hospital, and they